My name is Valerie Morris. I'm the Public Information Officer for Snyder ISD, and we're so glad that you're here with us online. We had a meeting last night at the junior high, and if you weren't able to make that, we're glad you're here. We'll also be recording this meeting as well, and we'll upload it to our website. So if you know somebody who wasn't able to make either of these meetings, or you just have a couple of questions you want to rewatch, feel free to do that. It should be up this evening. So I also want to welcome Anna Montoya, and we have Ms. Falconberry as well. Ms. Falconberry is the counselor over at the junior high, and Anna Montoya is our parent engagement liaison. Am I right, Anna? Did I get that?
Yes, ma'am.
So we are, let's see, sure I can hear you. Can you say something again, Anna? I don't know if I can hear you.
I might have been muted.
There we go. Okay, I got you. I just wanted to make sure. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started with some of our most frequently asked questions. And like I said, feel free to type in your questions as we go along. So we'll go ahead and just dive right in. 7th and 8th grade is a little different for kids moving up from 6th grade, or maybe some of our 7th graders, as they become 8th graders, they have some more options available to them. So we're going to cover all of that, as well as some of the most frequently asked questions about athletics and all of that as well. So Ms. Falconberry, can you tell me, hey, Coach Wood, he's joining us right now. So Ms. Falconberry, can you tell us a little bit about how and when students choose electives? I know you've been working hard on that already. So can you tell us a little bit about how that process is going and what parents need to know?
Absolutely. The elective forms were handed out to students, started on Monday, meeting with students during their WIN periods and discussing the electives and going over the different choices, how to select high school credits, all that information. Students were given the elective forms during that WIN time, and they are asked to return the forms with a parent signature to their WIN teacher by this Friday.
Okay, so that deadline is coming up. What type of electives are available for 7th and 8th grade students?
Okay, 7th graders have the option of Art 1, Art 2. They have STEM. They have a computer science class that is coupled with touch data entry. Both of those count as high school credits or half credits. So together they will make 1 credit. They have health and pro communications, which is a speech class. Those also count as high school credits. Spanish 1 is available for 7th graders. Of course, there's band and choir. We also have a music appreciation class. For 8th grade, they have everything that 7th graders have available to them, but they also have Spanish 2 being offered, as well as graphic art and yearbook. Graphic art and yearbook, they need to meet with Ms. Rodriguez, the art teacher, complete an application, and go through an interview process for those 2 classes.
Okay, so as far as elective options, you had mentioned some of them students can earn high school credit.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? What are some special considerations that students should take if they sign up for one of those high school credit classes?
Okay, what I've been telling the students is that, it's not recommended for a student that really doesn't put a lot of effort into school, or who is okay with receiving a grade below a 70, because it will already start their GPA at the high school level. So the high school credit courses are indicated on the elective forms with an asterisk. It will also say high school credit. Those classes should be considered for the students who take school seriously and who are looking at taking care of some of their electives towards high school to free up some space. Another consideration would be the pathway that the students are considering. If they are not interested in technology, then perhaps touch data entry and computer science are classes that they do not need to take.
Okay, and thank you for emphasizing that. I think it's a really important point that students understand and parents understand. If they sign up for a high school class, that grade's going to follow them through their senior year, and it's going to be on their final high school transcript. So if your student is enrolled in one of those classes, help them out. They're still a 7th or 8th grader. Help make sure they're on top of it and being held accountable and doing their best in those classes, as they should in all, but it's just a little more weight associated with
Absolutely,
this.
yes. We also talked about Spanish 1. I know we already have a huge population of students requesting that class. We only have one Spanish teacher, and so she has six hours of the day that are available for Spanish 1. So that will narrow that selection process down. I told the students that I will look at their grades, their attendance, and possibly even their STAR scores if needed to determine placement within that class for Spanish 1. The Spanish 1 is a class that is required at the high school regardless of the pathway that they take.
Okay, that's good information. We do have a parent who's asked a question. She says, for a graphic art and yearbook courses, the student should request the form from the teacher, or is there a link where the parent may print the application?
It is, Ms. Rodriguez has the application, so they will get that directly from her.
Okay.
And as students have been approaching her, she's been, talking to them about their interest and trying to find out if they're a fit for the class and that sort of thing.
Okay, that's great. So the parent that asked that question, if they're not able to find that or they're having trouble, just reach out to the school and we'll make sure that we point you
Absolutely.
or the student in the right direction.
Yes.
Okay. So what if a child is unsure which elective they're struggling with that? Or what if they change their mind after they sign up for it?
Okay. The first day of school, we will not do schedule changes. However, starting the second day of school next year, they have up to a week. I believe it was the Wednesday the next week. So the first, if we start school on a Tuesday, the next Wednesday. So they have about a week time frame where schedule changes can be made. After that, it is highly frowned upon to change. And that's based upon attendance and grading.
Sure. And we have a parent who's asked another question. How do they find out which electives their child has chosen?
Well, the forms require parent signature and are not to be accepted without that.
So ask your child where their form is, and if they've misplaced it, then they need to get another one this week
Yes.
because those are due Friday. And if they don't receive it, then they will not. They'll have their electives chosen for them, perhaps.
Absolutely.
Correct?
Yes. And that was discussed with them over and over again throughout my time with them yesterday and today. Not turning it in on time will result in me choosing their electives, and that will be based upon class availability and possibly placing them in classes that they really are not interested in.
Mhm.
So it's important that they do turn it in by Friday.
Okay, good information. Can you tell us a little bit about communication? Hopefully, we're all comfortable with how to communicate with teachers, but just as a reminder, what's the best way to communicate with teachers at the junior high?
Our campus uses Parent Square. Email is another great option. They can always call and leave a message or speak to an admin at the moment. But Parent Square is our #1 way of communicating.
Right. And if you're having any trouble accessing Parent Square, feel free to send me an email. You can just email questions@snyderisd.net. If you're running into any problems, typically we find those at the beginning of the year, but every once in a while we'll have some problems crop up mid-year, and I'd be glad to help you with that. Or you can call the campus and they can make sure that you're able to access Parent Square. Let's talk about absences and the importance of attendance in junior high and how that's different. I think that's something that is really important to understand. And we want to make sure that all parents have a good understanding of how that works.
Okay. At the junior high level, it's much different than the intermediate or primary. Attendance is taken not only once a day, it's taken every single class period. And a student must be present in the class 90% of the time in order to be counted present. So if they are out of the classroom more than 5 minutes, they are counted absent. And that's a state law. That's not a policy that we've developed. That is actually a state law.
And that's important too, because especially with some of the high school classes as well, if they're in that
Absolutely.
class and they haven't been there, they're not going to get that credit. And if it's required for
Right.
graduation, so that's another consideration in addition to grades, also attendance for some of those high school credit classes too. So
Yes.
it's important at any grade, but another special consideration as well.
I'm gonna do a small recap in Spanish. I've noticed we have some join us.
Mhm.
Esta junta es para nada más darles información sobre las clases electivas que van a tomar los niños el año que entra. Si están entrando en el 7 y en el 8, se les mandó un formulario a los estudiantes para que llenen con clases de interés. Y si tiene un poquito más si necesita un poquito más de información, puede llamar aquí a la Junior High y le podemos ayudar a hablar el proceso. Los estudiantes van a llevar la forma a la casa. Ustedes tienen que firmarla para que ellas puedan entrar en las clases que eligieron. Si tiene preguntas sobre cómo entregarla o qué es lo que tiene que hacer, nada más llámenos aquí. Otra cosa que acaban de cubrir es sobre la asistencia, la importancia de la asistencia y cómo cuenta en esta escuela. Es por clase. Los niños tienen que estar presentes el 90% del tiempo que vienen aquí, que están en esa clase. Así que si usted nota que para el periodo tercero estuvieron ausentes, es porque o pidieron permiso para salir de la clase o llegaron tarde y fue más del 90% del tiempo que se requiere que estar en la clase. Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. Thank you, Anna.
It's a very fast recap.
Yeah, perfect. The next question we have that's come in from a parent is the WIN class an elective or is that mandatory for all students?
A WIN class is mandatory for all students on campus.
Hay una
It's
clase.
kind of like a homeroom where they do all their benchmark testing. They get some extra help on assignments as needed, but it is required for all students on campus.
Hay una clase de WIN, que es una clase requerida para todos los estudiantes. En esa clase se les permite hacer tareas. Si están reprobando, se les da tiempo para poder completar las tareas que no se han hecho.
Okay, the next question we have is what STAR tests are given to 7th and 8th grade students?
That's a good question. 7th grade students take ELAR and math. 8th grade students take ELAR, math, science, and social studies.
So quite a bit for those 8th graders.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Una de las preguntas que se ha presentado es cuáles exámenes se les darán a los estudiantes del 7 y el 8 grado. Los exámenes estatales van a ser para los del 7 grado son matemáticas y lectura. Para los del 8 grado son lectura, matemáticas, ciencias y estudios sociales.
Okay, next question. Cell phone policy. As students get higher up in grades, more and more of them have a cell phone if they don't have one already. Can we just give parents a quick recap of the cell phone policy reminder?
Absolutely. Cell phones are not to be seen or heard, so they should be turned off and placed in their backpacks. If they are confiscated, it is a $15 fee to get the phone returned at the end of the school day.
Okay, so please reiterate that with your students, with your children about the cell phone policy and do them a favor and not send them a text during school or a call during
Right.
school. If you need to get a message to them, you can still call the front office and we'll get that message to them because we don't want them to get in trouble with their cell phone, okay?
And in addition to that, this includes AirPods, which is a separate device.
Yes.
So if they are caught with their phone and their AirPods, that's a $30 fee because it's $15 per item. So just la póliza de los teléfonos en esta escuela de los celulares es no deben de ser vistos o escuchados. Así que llegando a la escuela tienen un periodo donde se les permite Normalmente es antes de la primera campana y durante la hora de la comida, pero la hora de la comida es solamente con permiso de un administrador. Así que si los estudiantes están en la clase y tienen su teléfono, se les va a recoger el teléfono. Si traen audífonos, con eso también es incluido y son $15 para que se los regresen.
Okay, is there anything else, Ms. Falconberry or Ms. Montoya, that you want to cover regarding academics? And if not, we'll move on to athletics.
I think we're good.
Okay, parents, you can still ask questions if anything comes up. Feel free to type that in the Q&A. And we'll move on to Coach Wood, because if you've had a sixth grader, they're now going to be able to enter into athletics. And this might be a new experience for you. There's also a few changes that have come through as far as the names of some of our eligibility paperwork that we want to make sure that all the parents understand. So welcome, Coach Wood. Thanks for joining us. And I bet you're looking forward to seeing some new student athletes come through.
Absolutely.
Great. So tell us a little bit, what sports are available for students in junior high?
Yeah, so they can do tennis, they can do golf, they can do football, volleyball, they can do basketball, they can do track, and I think that's all of them.
Okay. All right. So that's exciting for a lot of kids. Of course, I know one thing, when we were at the fifth graders presentation, a lot of the kids were really surprised about the no pass, no play rule. They didn't realize that.
Yeah. So I mean, this is obviously just a statewide UIL TEA thing, but you got to pass to play. So what most kids don't realize is you got to pass every class to play, and we have 6 weeks grading checks, and at each 6 weeks grade report, they'll run that report, and if you failed one class, below a 70 in that class, then you'll be ineligible until you regain eligibility. And in order to regain eligibility, there's called a 3-week grading report, and that's halfway through the 6-week cycle. And if you are passing all of your classes at the 3 weeks, then you can regain eligibility. But some kids think, oh, well, I passed the class that I was failing, now I'm eligible. No, you got to be passing all the classes that you were failing, or that you were, all the classes that you were taking in order to regain eligibility up to that point. And so it's kind of a technical thing that you want to get in ultimately to cover all your bases, pass your classes every 6 weeks, and everything should take care of itself. There's also some weird things. Kids are eligible during holidays, but usually that does not affect junior high kids. That's more once you get to high school. There's also something called a grace period. The grace period is 1 week from the last school day that your cycle ends all the way up until the next Friday. That's when the actual grades come into effect. So everybody has a week to make sure and solidify their grades. So that's just a technicality that most kids have to kind of learn the hard way if they do end up failing.
Right. And that's one of the good things. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry. On that same note, I'm so sorry, Valerie. On that same note, Ms. Falconberry, I don't know if you can go into it a little bit further on, because we're coming toward the end of the year and we have some attendance and we have some 6th and 7th graders that'll be affected by this, the pass or promoted, they've been promoted or they've been placed. Can you one of you explain that? Because I know that's been a question in the past.
Go ahead, Ms. Falconberry.
I know that will affect especially the 8th graders moving into high school. If they are placed, meaning that they did not pass, but however they were allowed to continue on to the next grade level, then they're ineligible for that. I believe the first 6 weeks.
Right. So they have to earn enough credits in order to pretty much be pushed on to the next level. And so if they're placed, if they're placed rather than passed, in other words, if they didn't get the proper amount of credits, then they can't play until they pass, until they gain their credits and pass, and they're eligible by pass fail.
So this is just kind of more affecting high school, not so much our junior high.
I believe.
It does affect the junior high, but it's not
not as
as, right.
consistent.
It's a big change from 8th grade to 9th grade. It's a big change for them.
Right.
And I'm going to stop for a minute. I'm going to stop y'all for a minute just to translate. It's a lot. Estamos hablando con el director de los deportes de Snyder. Nada más está explicando el proceso. Si los estudiantes quieren jugar en la junior high, solamente tenemos football, volleyball, pueden correr o pueden jugar tenis o golf. Y si están interesados, tienen que hablar con los entrenadores y empezar a trabajar para poder, si ya están en el 7 y quieren entrar como el 8, es ir a platicar con ellos para ver qué es lo que tienen que hacer. Uno de las cosas más importantes es cuando ya están registrados en atléticos, no pueden reprobar clases. Si reprueban clases, no pueden competir hasta que estén pasando todas sus clases. Go ahead.
So the next question that we have is if you have a future 8th grader who's never been in a sport, but now has some interest in a sport, can they try out as an 8th grader?
Yeah, absolutely. They can try out as an incoming 7th grader. They can try out as an 8th grader. We're even open somewhat to, kids trying once they get to high school, never played, interested in playing. We don't want to deter that. Different sports are different. Like we don't really cut anybody in football. If you want to play football, you can play and you'll go to all the practices and you'll suit up and you'll either be put on the A team or B team and you'll go to the games as long as you're meeting all the expectations, passing your classes, etc. For some other sports, they only have a certain amount of uniforms. And so they do make the, travel teams. They usually let kids stay out and go ahead and continue to go through that season, be a practice player, continue to improve their skills. And my advice would be to anybody and everybody, any parent, if your kid has interest in playing and wants to be involved, first and foremost, make sure that they're actually about it and like dedicated to committing to the whole season. And then if they are, then give it a shot. It's not going to hurt. It'll just be an experience to grow, get to build different relationships, maybe, put your body in some situations where they kind of got to battle through some adversity, that type of thing. But it's just going to help them develop and try to tackle new tasks in whatever path they end up going down.
La pregunta es si tengo un estudiante que está que va a entrar al 8 y no participó este año en Atlético, si pueden participar todavía, si es muy tarde, pero no es muy tarde, pueden participar. No estamos diciendo que inmediatamente van a ser un equipo, pero tienen ellos el privilegio de hacer, de ir a las prácticas para ver si califican, y aunque no califiquen, aunque no lleguen, no los ponen en el equipo que vamos a sacar, ellas como quiera pueden participar en el proceso de mejorar su habilidad para poder competir en el año que entra en el 9. Así que es algo que sí recomiendan mucho si tienen interés, que nada más porque no jugaron este año que no se detengan.
So what about some requirements to participate? There's some important things that parents and students need to take care of in order for them to be able to play. And if they don't take care of it, they're not going to be able to play. Can you talk a little bit about that, Coach Wood?
Absolutely. So that's one of the main things, especially with the younger ones that we always run into. The most frustrating thing is a kid wants to come out and play and then they have to sit for 2 or 3 weeks because they haven't taken care of the proper paperwork. So all of our kids have forms that they are required to sign in order to be a part and eligible to play. In other words, to clear them to be able to participate. There's 6 forms that we have in an online forum. It's called Arbiter Sports and it used to be Planet HS. Anyways, there's this online forum and we have this whole forum that'll show any and every kid how to get logged in and how to get signed up. into those forms, and both the athlete and parent will have a linked account where both people have to sign off on all 6 of those forms. One of the big ones that's not just going online and filling those out is getting a physical. We have to get a medical physical in order to get every kid cleared in order to be able to participate. We don't want to, put a kid out there with some underlying pre-existing condition that we didn't know about with their heart or something. So they have to go get their physical in order to be eligible. And that's one of those arbiter forms. Cogdell works great with us, and they will, the school, the ISD will pay for our physicals for all incoming 7th graders, any grade 7 through 12. But the way that physicals work is you have to get one every 2 years. So if you're on task and doing it from the first time that you're eligible to play, it's incoming 7th, incoming 9th, and incoming 11th. That would cover you for every 2 years throughout those cycles, and they'll pay for it up until August 1st. That's when we start 2-a-days up at the high school. After that, the kids have to pay for them. The parents have to pay for them themselves. So the biggest thing is don't wait till the end of the summer when everything's all clogged up. Just go ahead and schedule one, get it done now, get it done in July. And let's knock those things out, because every kid has to have that in order to be able to play. A lot of times the kid's like, well, I wanted to try football, and they're sitting for 3 weeks, then they've lost all the reps and all the opportunities to jump the depth charts and all that type of thing. We just can't get a look at them. And that goes for every sport. So there's some forms that, for those that are interested, we push out that information. We also communicate everything through a different communication avenue other than Parent Square, called SportsU. And so when parents are interested in their kid playing, we push that out on social media. We push it out even through Parent Square. And so they have access to say, okay, here's what I need to download to be able to be on SportsU. Here's how I get access to an arbiter account, fill out my forms. So we push all that information out on the steps to join athletics.
La pregunta es qué requisitos hay para que mi estudiante pueda participar en atletismo. Y una de las más importantes, hay 6 formas que se tienen que llenar, que se pueden, Valerie puso el link en el chat, y ahí tienen que entrar y tienen que crear una cuenta de estudiantes y una cuenta de padres. Se tiene que llenar eso. También tienen que ir a agarrar un físico médico, y Snyder ISD paga por este físico si lo hacen antes del 1 de agosto. Así que nada más vayan a la clínica de Cogdell y digan que están ahí para un físico escolar y se lo dan gratis. Ellos nos regresan las formas y ahí está toda la información. Pero sí, esto es un requisito estatal, no es algo nada más de nosotros, es para que todos los estudiantes puedan competir. No queremos llegar a una competencia y que un niño tenga un problema del corazón o algo fuerte que no sabía nadie. Entonces esto nada más es un simple, es para prevenir un cuidado médico que no tienen algo más allá y nos avisa. Las formas, como les digo, están ahí, las puede hacer. Tienen que crear una cuenta, 2 cuentas, una del estudiante y una del padre. Si necesita ayuda, aquí estamos siempre también en la Junior High para poder ayudarle con eso.
Okay, so the other question is summer workouts. We often get that question.
Oh, yeah.
Junior high students.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
My bad. So summer workouts is completely voluntary. It's optional, but we welcome the junior high kids to definitely come work out. We split our groups into 2 different groups every summer, to where we do agilities and conditioning each day and a lifting each day. And so they're separated and then they flip. It's Monday through Thursday. We send that calendar out. We post it all over our socials. We put it out on SportsU, everything. We'd love for all junior high kids to be involved. It's just a way to get a jump. It's a way to get them up in the morning, get them out of the house, and just stay on top of things, stay in shape, get an advantage of against their fellow teammates that they're competing against for spots, and get an advantage against their opponents. You do not have to have a physical to compete or participate in summer workouts, because it is optional. In other words, we are not liable for the kids during the summer. That's not part of, where they're technically I guess they're under our supervision. We're completely liable for them. They are supervised by us. We do take care of them. Nothing's ever happened, but it is voluntary. So that's why we don't have to have the physicals during that time. So like, a kid said, my cousin's in town. Can he come? Technically, yes, they can come. But just understand that it's, we aren't technically liable for them. But it's great. We don't do anything too crazy or anything. We just lift them and run them and try to get them to be bigger, better, stronger athletes.
That's great. And we'll be putting that information out on social media. It's also on our website typically we post that on the athletics page, but also on our summer programs page. So we don't have anything up yet, but as we start getting closer to summer, you'll find all sorts of things that your kids can do to keep busy, from camps to sports programs and things like that.
Real quick, Anna, before you say that, the other thing is we split our boys and girls summer programs separately. So you don't have to worry about your, 7th grade daughter going up there and working out with 11th and 12th grade boys. The girls programs are separate, and I think it's productive. I think it's good for the kids to be split that way.
I'll let you answer the question in the chat too. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, so the next question is, in one month can we begin getting the physical for next year?
I don't know, Valerie, do you know? I know that they usually get them in June and July.
Yeah, I think because it's for a year, correct?
Right. So we stopped paying for them August 1st, the school district does, but we always tell them to go get them done. I would be perfectly fine. I would have to double check with you and with Cogdell just to make sure that and with Alex to make sure that our agreement, what exactly our agreement is. But if we had the option to open that up to where kids could start going and get them in April and May, that'd be great. So we just gotta double check.
I want to say May. I
Yeah.
took my kid in May last year, and
Yeah.
I want to say May.
Yeah,
But-
I'll have to double check on that one.
Yeah, that's a good question. We would love to be able to spread that out over, give parents more time to do it. And I'm sure that the clinic would like that too. So there's not such a huge rush with back to school physicals and immunizations and all of that. So thanks for that question. We'll find out and we'll put information out to parents about that as well. So thank you.
I went to the question and I forgot what the previous conversation was on.
Summer
Summer workouts. I'm sorry.
Workouts, yeah.
It's a lot of information. Una de las preguntas que normalmente tenemos es que si los entrenamientos del verano son, no son mandatorios, no se exige que tenga que venir los estudiantes, pero sí están las puertas abiertas para que ellos vengan. Los entrenamientos, hay un calendario donde se enseña a qué hora trabajan las muchachas y los niños. Nunca están juntos en el mismo gimnasio, siempre se hacen diferentes. Se enfocan, los entrenamientos se enfocan en entonar su cuerpo para prepararlos a las actividades diferentes que puedan participar. Otra pregunta es que ¿cuándo se abre la ventana para poder ir a la clínica? Ahorita todavía está en cuestión. Sabemos que, por cierto, es en junio y julio, pero por seguro no estamos muy seguras si ahorita en mayo, pero en cuanto tengamos esa información se la mandamos. E igual, como les digo, tenemos una página donde se pone todo lo del verano, todos los eventos que se están ofreciendo en el distrito, están en nuestra página de Snyder ISD.
Thank you. Is there any other information regarding athletics, Coach Wood, that you want to convey to parents, or have we missed covering anything?
Let's see here. Nothing's coming to the top of my head. One thing that I might kind of throw out there, I know we don't have a whole lot of people probably that this would pertain to on here, but we ran into some issues before where there was a large group of kids and they were gonna miss, a track meet or basketball games or something for outside non-UIL travel team, AAU, and just for a general understanding, athletics is a privilege, education's a right. So like we expect for all extracurriculars, I'm sure, but especially in our athletic department, we expect that kids, never miss a practice or game in our sports, in our department, for outside non-Snyder ISD events. I mean, obviously things are going to come up and, things are going to happen, but as far as sports go, when they're missing something for a sports event, they will usually be held accountable for that. And that may be makeup, and that may be, missing a game or whatever it may be. If we come to that situation.
So if like I go and take an extended vacation, or we have a medical emergency, my child still has to make up those practices.
Right. And I mean, so one thing that we run into all the time, no case is black and white. Every case we kind of deal with on a case by case situation. A funeral, an emergency, a mom collapsed, all sorts of things happen. We're pretty lenient. There's usually no makeup for that. But if you're going on an extended vacation, just the understanding, with that, they're probably going to have to make up some of those workouts and may have to miss some playing time for that stuff. We ask that kids try to not miss for appointments. We know it happens. It happens at the high school. It happens with some of the best kids that we have, but we ask the kids try to be there, and that's just the expectation, to make all practices and make all games. So we kind of just we don't have like a completely black and white policy on that. We make exceptions when exceptions are needed for extenuating circumstances, but generally yes.
Nada más está informándoles que si sus hijos deciden participar en actividades extracurriculares, precisamente en atléticos, que entiendan que su presencia para las prácticas, para los entrenamientos, para los juegos, sí es mandatoria. No es algo que digamos ahora quiero ir y para la otra no quiero ir, solamente quiero jugar aquí, o no quiero salir fuera del pueblo. Si hay un juego, se espera que su hijo participe. Si tienen una emergencia, es algo en lo cual sí ellos, depende del caso, se hablaría con el entrenador y él le dará a saber si tienen que, van a tener consecuencias por haber faltado. Pero si nada más faltan porque nos fuimos de vacaciones, porque no fue a la escuela ahora por X cosa que no fue una emergencia, no fue una enfermedad, entonces sí va a haber consecuencias, que cada entrenador pone sus consecuencias como conforme ellos ven. Entonces es diferente, pero que entiendan que esto no nada más es voy a intentarlo, quiero jugar, es algo donde van a necesitar ellos que decir, lo voy a hacer y voy a terminarlo. Es algo a lo largo, no nada más cuando me dé la gana.
Okay, we have two more questions that have come through. One is regarding physicals. They said, just making sure our physical's good for 2 years.
Yes, unless they experience a significant injury where they have to have surgery, or they have to go see a doctor, and have to do therapy, rehab. That question usually is kind of determined by our trainer. So, let's say hypothetically a kid has to go to the doctor, but he was completely fine. Everything turned out to be great. It was just an ankle sprain. Then in that case, no, that would not be determined as a significant injury. But, sometimes there's a kid who may be cleared to participate in athletics, but they are required by their physician to get their physical every single year because of X, Y, or Z, based upon, that individual's conditions. In a general sense, yes, if an incoming 7th grader gets his physical, that is good for his 7th and 8th grade year, as long as they don't, break anything, tear anything, go have any surgeries, that kind of thing.
So
El físico médico es válido por 2 años, solamente que un estudiante tenga se lastime seriamente, donde se le tuvo que hacer una cirugía o algo extremo así. Normalmente es válido por 2 años, solamente que el médico pida cada año.
Yeah, and one other thing too, we did experience an odd thing with the pandemic. Obviously they didn't want a whole lot of people flooding into the hospitals and all that stuff. So some people may be a little, maybe your kid entered 7th grade during the pandemic, and then all of a sudden, your interpretation of, oh, well, my kid didn't have to get one for a whole 3 years. There was an exception made where unless the kid needed to get a physical for X, Y, or Z, whatever may have happened to that kid, they allowed them to continue that physical for a 3-year stint. That is gone now. We're back to normal.
Nada más quiere clarificar que si usted notó que para otro estudiante que ha tenido hubo un lapso de tiempo de 3 años donde no agarró un físico, que tomen en cuenta que sí se hicieron muchas excepciones cuando estaba COVID, así que ahorita ya estamos queriendo normalizar todo y poner todo en su misma rutina.
Okay, one more question that we've got. If a child wants to play golf, will we need to transport them from the junior high to golf practice? And is it held at WTC? And is it held during school hours?
You got me on a little, you got me on a little bit of I don't know if I have the right answer for that one. That is a question for Coach Del Bosque. So Coach Del Bosque, she used to teach at the junior high. She now is at the high school. She takes care of our junior high golfers. Valerie, you had a golfer in junior high, right?
I do. I can probably speak to that as long as
Okay.
nothing's changed, but typically what they would do is they would take them over to WTC or at the Scurry County golf course, and then we would pick them up after that practice. So that's usually how they went. If it was cold or raining, they would just practice at the indoor at Stanfield. And they would usually communicate that to the parents to let us know, hey, don't pick them up at the golf course today, pick them up at Stanfield or whatnot. So it's been a few years, but that's how I remember it then.
That's correct. Yes.
Yes.
That's why we're a team. Okay, any other questions that you all have? Y'all had some great questions. I really appreciate those. It helps us a lot and know and anticipate what you all need more information about. So thank you for that.
One question that came up yesterday, might be for Coach Wood, was can our student play 2 sports that are running at the same time? I guess
Absolutely.
track and golf was the question, Miss Falconberry, do you
I
remember?
believe it was football and golf. Mhm.
Something.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, some of those, some of those unicorn situations, we just kind of deal with the case by case, on a case by case basis. We do that with high school golfers as well. Playing football, you have to be it's a team sport. You have to be at every practice. You have to be accountable. You got to be dedicated. Like, it's hard to play fall golf and play football. However, we do have like a situation where a kid plays football in the fall and then plays golf or tennis in the spring, and we kind of divide that up and split half and half, and they'll go to off season half the time, and they'll go to golf practice half the time, and they'll go to golf practice every day after school. And then it's kind of the same situation there. It's once you get to high school, like in junior high right now, we don't have soccer. Once you get to high school, it would be very difficult to play a team sport that are going on at the same time. In other words, it's almost, I don't think we would be doing anybody any justice by letting a kid play soccer and basketball at the same time. You're not going to be able to make the necessary practices and learn the things necessary in order to be a part of both those teams. But a lot of times when you're dealing with track, and individual running events, and individual field events, if you're dealing with tennis, or golf, where it's a little bit more of an individual sport to an extent, you can kind of get to those practices after your team sport practice. So we do have, like at the high school level, we do have baseballers that also run track. We encourage kids to play as many things as they possibly can. We had footballers that also do cross country. Yes, you can play multiple sports. Yes, you can play a lot of sports that may end up kind of overlapping or go on at the same time, but there's a few exceptions that it's just like, no, that's a team sport where you're required to be there and learn everything and be a part of that practice process every time, and those practices are going on at the same time. So when they're full team sports like that, volleyball, football, basketball, soccer, baseball, softball, you know, those are usually okay by themselves, but once you try to combine two different team sports that are occurring at the same time, it gets hard. So luckily at the junior high level, no soccer, no baseball, no softball at that level yet. So other than their travel teams or their little league teams, so those usually don't overlap. We usually don't have any problems with kids wanting to do two different sports at the junior high and not being able to.
Right. And I think it was, what was it? Golf and cross country? Was that it? Something like that. So it would be running at the same time.
Yeah. And that would just, you know, we don't have a whole lot that end up doing those types of things.
Yeah.
So they would just communicate. The junior high coach, I got Lisa Maldonado is our girls coordinator. Ben McQuirk's our boys coordinator. I would just communicate with them. We'd set up a schedule that would allow that kid to be successful with that kind of unicorn situation, and we'd make it work for them.
Most of the time at the junior high level, they will play their team sport. And then when that season ends, then they will come to me for a schedule change, and then we'll change them over to golf or tennis.
Right. Yes, for the most part, you know, at the high school, we want a kid to make sure and, you know, go through the off season as well. So in order to get the strength and conditioning, the lifting, the agilities that it may be required to play a sport like football, basketball, track, stuff like that. Whereas, you know, that's not quite as demanding for a sport like golf or a sport like tennis.
Yeah.
So it's just, we'd have to deal with that when they came up.
Una de las preguntas que se hizo fue si los estudiantes pueden participar en diferentes deportes al mismo tiempo. El único que tenemos en esta escuela que afectaría el tiempo de nuestros estudiantes sería como si quieren jugar tenis, golf y correr. Son los únicos que corren al mismo tiempo que serán afectados aquí. Sí es posible, pero es algo que el estudiante tiene que tener. La comunicación es muy importante. Tiene que hablar con los entrenadores y asegurarse que estamos haciendo lo mejor para que ellos logren su meta.
Okay, well, we haven't had any other questions come through. We know you may come up with some questions after we get off this webinar today, and you are welcome to call the junior high directly and speak with any of them. You can call the athletic office. You can email any of us. You can send us a parent square. A good general place to send an email if you're not sure who to ask is you can always email questions@snyderisd.net. I get those emails and I can forward them to whoever needs to field your questions. So don't be afraid to ask, and we'll keep the communication lines open so that everybody has a successful year in the 23-24 school year. And thanks everyone for joining us. We appreciate you.
Gracias. Si tienen preguntas, por favor, llámenos a la junior high o manden un email a questions@snyderisd.net y Valerie se las mandará a la persona indicada.
Thanks, guys. See y'all.
Bye.
Thank you.